Joe Rogan makes $111 million a year and is worth $200 million. He's one of the most successful creators on the planet. But what if I told you he's sitting on an untapped goldmine that could make him a billionaire in half of the time? Today, I'm funnel hacking Joe Rogan's empire. Spoiler alert, the numbers are kind of insane. Joe, or Jamie, pay attention. Here's how Joe makes his money right now. From podcast ads, we got $48 million a year. From Spotify, $30 million a year. From comedy shows, $23 million a year. From YouTube ads, $6.2 million a year. From UFC, $2 million a year. And from Onnit, a company he co-owns, $2 million a year. Now, these are all estimations and publicly available information, and they're not probably entirely accurate, but let's go with it. Okay, after paying taxes and expenses, Joe probably keeps about half of what he makes, taking home around $55 million each year. Here's something surprising though. Joe Rogan, with all his success, doesn't have an email list or funnel. No newsletter, no way to directly reach his massive audience. Nothing. All his content goes through platforms he doesn't control. But here's the thing. If he had an email list and a newsletter funnel, these numbers could grow exponentially faster. Think of it this way. He's sitting on a pile of dry brush that grows weekly and is doused in gasoline. Now, if I build him a funnel, it would be kind of like lighting a match and throwing it on top of that pile. Boom. So let's look at what he could build. Joe gets about 11 million listeners for each podcast episode. He does about 3.5 shows every week. Now, he doesn't do a half show in the week, but just the average based on how many times he publishes. He does about 3.5 a week. So that means 38.5 million people tune in weekly, adding up to about 2 billion listens per year. Now, if just 1% of listeners join his newsletter when he mentions it in an episode, that's 110,000 new subscribers from just one episode. If he mentions it in all 3.5 weekly shows, he'd get 385,000 new subscribers on average every week. That adds up to 20 million subscribers in the first year. People might get tired of hearing about it, so let's assume that it works 10% less each year. Now, year one, he'd have 20 million subscribers. Year two, another 18 million. And then year three, another 16 million, for a total of 54 million subscribers. Okay, if 25% of those subscribers open his emails, which is an industry standard open rate, in fact, it's a pretty conservative estimate, here's how many active readers he'd have in his email list. Year one, 5 million active readers. Year two, 9.5 million readers. And year three, 13.5 million active readers. Let's break down how much money this could make. For sponsorships, sponsors could pay, let's say, $100,000 for each ad placement in the first year. So he publishes a weekly newsletter, and in that newsletter, you have an ad placement that costs $100,000 to be there. Let's assume that this cost goes up 20% each year, just because his list is getting bigger and his influence is getting bigger, so it's therefore more valuable. The first year, let's say, based on this, brings in $5.2 million. The second year would bring in $6.2 million. And the third year brings in about $7.5 million from sponsorships on the email list. For merchandise sales, let's say if he sold merchandise. I think he does. I think it's on his website. It's on some separate third-party site. But if he had Joe Rogan Experience merchandise, well-designed, interesting, from sweaters to mugs to whatever else, if just 1% of his subscribers buy $50 worth of merchandise each month, that's about $120 million in the first year. And if it grows with his list, $228 million in the second year and $325 million in the third year. For premium memberships, let's say he offered a premium membership where 1% of the subscribers pay $10 monthly for exclusive content, bonus content, behind the scenes, discounts on merch and tickets and shows. That's $24 million in recurring revenue in the first year. Then $45 million in the second year, $65 million in the third year. It's crazy. It doesn't even sound real. Now, for live show tickets, which he also does for his comedy shows, sales would grow steadily. Now, if he had an email list, he could directly promote his shows and his tickets to his most loyal fans, offering early access, VIP packages, backstage access, special perks, and a lot more. I mean, the list goes on. These funnel-driven email promotions could steadily add $5 million in the first year, $7 million in the second, and $10 million in the third year. Let's add it all up. The first year total is about $154 million. The second year total is $287 million, and the third year total is $408 million because he has an email list. Now here's the path to $1 billion. Right now, Joe makes about $55.5 million each year after taxes. I'm just doing some math based on what he makes and taxes and expenses. An estimation, really. So $55 million. At this rate, his net worth would grow to $366 million in 3 years. So he'd need about 14 or 15 years to reach $1 billion in net worth. Now, again, this is a wild estimation, and maybe it would actually be a lot less, to be honest. Let's call it 10 years until Joe Rogan's a billionaire. By adding a newsletter, Joe Rogan can speed that up. Here's how. He could make an extra $150 to $200 million every year from his email list. His net worth could grow to $687 million in just 3 years. Then, making $200 million to $260 million yearly, he could hit $1 billion in net worth in only 4 to 5 years. That's less than half the time. Now, okay, before you get all crazy in the comments section, which you're welcome to, because engagement, right? Keep in mind, these numbers are based on what we know and can find out on the internet about Joe's current income and what the newsletter could make. We don't know about his investments or other business deals, but even with what we know, an email newsletter could help him reach billionaire status much faster. Now, why are email lists so powerful? Why is this so important? Well, it's growth that keeps building and compounding. So every podcast episode brings in more subscribers to the list, and that list just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Also, full control of distribution. So Joe would own his distribution. No one else can get in between him and his fans, which we know has happened on occasion in the past. If he has a guest or says something that just doesn't quite sit right with the big brand, well, that can be putting certain things in jeopardy. If you own distribution, there's a little less risk there, or a lot less risk. So that Spotify deal falls through, no problem. Joe's got his own distribution. Now, also, it's money that scales up. So as that list grows, so does the money from sponsored ad placements, merchandise, memberships, and any other products or offers that he has to sell. So here's how I would build Joe Rogan's funnel and make him a billionaire in half the time. First, I'd fix up that website. The current website, it's too basic and needs some work. We need to make it better at capturing emails and getting them on that list. So we'd add sign-up forms to the top of the page above that fold. We'd add a pop-up when people try to leave. We'd add forms that slide in on certain pages. And we'd also put sign-up forms under each podcast episode, which would also be on the website. You'd need to tell people why they should join as well. Probably a lot of people will subscribe just because it's Joe Rogan in your inbox, but the more you incentivize or encourage or personalize why you should subscribe, the higher it is. And if we're looking at millions and millions of visitors, if you take a 10% opt-in to a 15% opt-in, that's way more subscribers and big ROI and big money. Okay. You could also make different pages on the website for different types of fans. You could add ways to make money, like sell special merch. You could offer paid memberships. You could sell comedy show tickets. You could sell digital stuff. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. The website does not capture any emails or sell anything at all. Nothing. Next, pitch the newsletter. How do we do that? People got to know about it. So get more JRE, join our newsletter for extra clips and behind the scenes stuff. You want more Joe Rogan? Sign up and get stuff you can't see anywhere else. Go to joerogan.com and join our newsletter. That's where all the good stuff goes. You could also mention it. Probably what he would do is mention it on the show, somewhere on the episode, maybe a few times. There's natural ways to bring it up as well. You know, he could say something like, if you want more stuff like this, check out our newsletter at joerogan.com. Or Jamie puts together the best stuff every week. That was great. We actually kept talking after the show. You can find these clips in the newsletter at joerogan.com. Or if you like what this guest is saying, there's more from them, more behind the scenes and extended clips and cuts at the newsletter at joerogan.com. These are just some basic ways. Just basically let people know to subscribe, and that's how you're going to start building that list. Now, what goes in the newsletter? How do you make it a good newsletter? I see it like this: a weekly Rogan rundown with the best parts of recent shows, stories, sponsored placements and special merch and deals, early access to show tickets, special stuff for paid members like exclusive content and discounts, and so much more. And it needs to look good. It needs to be something that is a joy to open up in my inbox and catch up. Now, how do you set it up? I'd use Kit to make landing pages quickly. You could do that. You could use Kit's email marketing tools to sort the subscribers into groups and segments using tags and custom fields. You can create automations. You can track how many people open and click the emails. You could use Kit's snippets and special liquid code to change content based on subscriber activity. You can grow the list faster. You could track it all. You can measure it all. You can make the email templates and the designs look great, and all of it's automated and makes a return, makes money like crazy. Now, what's in it for Joe? I mean, it's obvious: direct access to his audience, massive new revenue streams, and most importantly, ownership over his distribution. No middlemen or algorithms. Now, what's in it for the sponsors? Again, this one should be obvious as well. A direct line to millions of engaged, loyal fans in their inbox with incredibly high open and click-through rates, ensuring sponsors get exceptional ROI. And at the end of the day, what's in it for the fans? Exclusive content, episode summaries for those that don't have 3 hours to listen to a podcast episode, early access to comedy tickets, discounts, bonuses, merch, behind the scenes moments, and a closer connection to Joe. So there you have it. Joe Rogan's untapped email funnel could be $1 billion engine in just a few years. The numbers, yeah, insane. The potential, massive. But let's be honest for a second here. These projections are just best case scenarios. Conversion rates, audience growth, merch and product sales, they don't happen just in a vacuum, and they don't just go the way you want them to all the time. People get tired of hearing pitches. Sales don't always scale perfectly, and no one's buying $50 worth of merch every single month forever. That said, the possibility is what makes this so exciting. If Joe, or any creator in this position, nailed the strategy, built the funnel, and kept the audience engaged, this could genuinely transform the game for them. But like with anything, success comes down to execution. So Joe, Jamie, if you're out there, hit me up. Let's make you a billionaire in half the time. And for everyone else watching, what do you think? Should Joe jump on this, or does he not need the hassle? Let me know what you think in the comments. And while you're at it, tell me who I should funnel hack next. I'll see you next time.